Good day mga kamag-aral. Today we're going to discuss a new topic in mathematics, week 4, quarter 1. So let's proceed. Mag-aral tayo ng mabuti. Our today's topic is all about real numbers. After the discussions today, we're able to illustrate real numbers and its subsets. And we're able to arrange real numbers in increasing or decreasing order. And we're also enabled to represent real life situations involving real numbers. So for us to understand more about real numbers, let's proceed. Real numbers says a compromise of any numbers that you can think or use in everyday life. It is the compilations of all types of numbers. Each real number represents a unique number along the number line. And on the real number line, a point corresponds for every number. A real number and a real number corresponds for every point. So as you can see here, ito po yung kabuuan na pinag-aralan natin from first week up to the fourth week of the first quarter in mathematics. So as what we have read here, compilations of all types of numbers, and for real numbers that represents on a number line. Ayan po na nabanggit po. So, for us to understand more about the real numbers, let's proceed. So, in this part, you've seen a Venn diagram on your screen. So we're done on studying about Venn diagram, but we're going to use it, the concepts of Venn diagram, to represent real numbers. The big one circle is real number. And inside the big one circle real number, there is a rational number and irrational number. Inside rational number, there are there is integer, and inside integer there is whole number, and inside whole number there is natural numbers. So this is the relations of real numbers to its subsets as what we have here. Ito po siya. Kung makita niyo po. So all of the topic from the first week up to the last week of mathematics in quarter 1 ay ito po, real numbers po siya. As we go on, we're going to discuss more about the real numbers. So now, let's have the subsets of real numbers. Subsets of real numbers. The first one is natural or counting numbers. It is also known as counting numbers when you hear natural numbers. So these are the example of natural numbers. The sets whose elements are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so on and so forth. And the whole numbers, these are the numbers consisting of the sets counting numbers and 0, whose sets are with elements of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. So let's proceed on our next slides. So we have here integers. So we already know about the integers as what we had in our previous discussions. Integers, the set of natural numbers commonly called the positive integers. Their opposites and negative. Opposites is negative. So here, the sets whose elements are from 0 to its left, -1, -2, -3, so on and so forth. From 0 to its right, 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. And next is rational numbers. These are numbers that can be expressed as the quotients of two integers, A over B, provided that B is not equal to 0, as what we had mentioned in our previous discussions. So, some of the example of rational numbers are here, whose elements are 2 thirds, 4.35, 0, negative 8, negative 5 fourths, negative 1 and 5, 6, square root of 36, and 14. So, to tell you this, these are some of the sample of rational numbers because there were many example of rational numbers. So, let's proceed. So, if we have rational numbers, that can represent into fractions. We also have irrational numbers. Irrational numbers are numbers that cannot be expressed as a quotient of two integers. It includes the non-terminating and non-repeating decimals. So these are the sample of irrational numbers. The phi, which is also known as the 3.14, 5.19, 61, 52, 42, 3, so on and so forth, which means it indicates that this series of numbers or the decimal numbers here are non-terminating, wala pong katapusan. Square root of 5, we also know that square root of 5 is a irrational number and also with negative square root of 12. And now let's have our illustrative example. We're asked here to arrange the following real numbers in increasing order. So, as you know that real numbers is the totality of our lessons from first week to fourth week of quarter 1 in Mathematics 7. So, ito po siya para lang po tayo magre-review to sum up with and to give some emphasis on the types and the applications of real numbers. So, let's do this. So in here, for solutions, we are suggest to express all the given real numbers in decimal form, and it might help us. So unahin natin yung mas mga madadali. So we have negative 4. Ito po siya. We're going to rewrite negative 4 here, and negative 4 is equal to negative 4.00. So naglagay po tayo ng 2 zeros right after decimal point. Ayan po. Negative 4 is equal to negative 4.00. And the next one is 5.80 or 5 and 8 tenths. 5 and 8 tenths is equal to 5 and 80 hundredths. So, ayan po, pareho lamang po yung dalawang yan. Okay, it so happen na kailangan po natin magdagdag ng dalawang decimal numbers right after the decimal point. 200 place po. Mamaya po malalaman at unawaan niyo po yung pinakadahilan po. So, let's proceed. So, I recopy the negative 4 and the 5.8. Rewrite in negative 4.00 and 5.80. Ayan po. So, let's have negative 1 up. We already know that converting fractions into decimal processes, that you're going to divide the denominator to numerator. But in here, you have to include the negative signs. Directly to say that negative 1 half is equal to negative 0.50 or negative 50 hundredths. Okay, and 4 and 2 fifths mixed fractions or mixed numbers is equal to 4.40. Okay, so 4 here as copy lamang, and then yung 2 fifths, you're going to convert it into decimals. So, as what we had in our previous discussions in converting fractions to decimals, so ito po siya. So, since it is 0.40 or 40 tenths, and since tayo po ay kailangan mag-add ng 2 decimal place, those 2 decimal numbers right after decimal point, kaya magdadagdag po na tayo ng 0 kay 0.4. So, yan na. Ito na po yung ilan sa mga dahilan kung bakit dalawang digits po ang ating kinakailangan right after decimal point. So, in here, is taking the square root of a particular number, even the perfect square number, there is two signs, the positive one and the negative one. We already know that the square root of 36 is positive and negative 6. Ayan po siya. So if we're going to rewrite positive and negative 6 and adding two zeros right after decimal point here, ayan po, as what we had before, dito po sa taas, ayan po sa negative 4. Ganun lang din po gagawin natin po sa positive and negative 6, which is equal to positive and negative 6.00. And now, for the square root of 50, we already know the square root of 50 is an irrational number. So that is why it is between 7 and 8. So if we're going to take the square root of it, there would be positive and negative sign. So that is why we have 7.07 as what we had. Ayan po. So ito po yung pinakamalapit. So kaya po tayo nagkaroon ng dalawang decimal numbers right after decimal point po. In nearest hundreds place. Ayan po. So in here, we have two arrangements of numbers. Why? Because in taking square root, as what we had, dalawa po ang sign yan, isa positive and negative. So now, focus muna po tayo sa positive muna ng square root ng dalawang numbers na itong po, the square root of 36 and square root of 50. So we have here negative 4.00 and negative 0.50. When we read or when you hear increasing, sa pag-arrange po pala ng numbers relative to increasing, magmumula po tayo sa mababa, paitaas. Okay, so ganito po ang gagawin. So, recopy, negative 4.00, negative 0.50, and 4.40, ayan po, as what we had here, and 5.80 as what we have here, and the positive 6.00 and positive 7.07. This is the suggested first arrangement po. And the next one is the second arrangement. Focus naman po tayo sa negative po ng mga square root po ng mga numerong ito. So we have negative 7.07, negative 6.00, and then copy na lang po natin itong mga sumusunod. Negative 4.00, negative 0.50, 4.40, 5.80. Okay, so that's the second arrangement of the number. Ayan po, ng real numbers na po ito. Meron pa pong may-ari diyang ma-exist because the positive and negative can mix. Ayan po, pwede pong paghaluin yan. Paano kung pinili mo dito ay positive at ito ay negative? Ganun po siya. So, ito po yung ilan sa mga suggested arrangements with this kind of example. Ayan po. So, let's proceed for more example. So, now let's have our second illustrative example. So, it is related to fractions. So, it says here that there are 60 students in a class. 3/5 of them are girls. And we are asked on how many girls are there and how many boys are there. And here, in processing the word problem related to fractions, it is better to have a model. Ayan po, mas maganda po magkaroon po tayo ng model. So I've drawn here square wherein it has 5 boxes or 5 squares. So if the word problem is a sort of fractions, ang gagawin nyo lamang po is tingnan nyo po yung denominator po ng fraction nyo, which is 5. So, we're going to make a model representing the fractions of girls and also the boys. Ganito pong gagawin natin. So, since the denominator is 5, so we have 5 square or 5 boxes here. So, it says here that 3/5 of them are girls. So, we have 1, 2, 3, all over 5. That represents the parts of girls inside the class with 60 students. So that is 3/5. Ayan po. And then the remaining part is 2/5. That is that is for the number of boys inside the class with 60 students. So now, how can we find the particular number of girls inside the class, or the exact number of girls inside the class? So we're going to, for our solutions, we're going to multiply 3/5 to 60, as what we had here. So now 3 times 60 over 5. So 3 times 60 is 180, and you're going to divide it by 5. The number of girls inside the class with 60 students is 36 girls, and that represents 3/5 of the class with 60 students. And now we are asked also the number of boys inside the class. So there were two solutions there. One is, or two process, or two ways. One is by doing the same thing here, or by just subtracting 36, yung bilang po ng girls, sa 60. So we have 60 minus 36, yun na lang ang pinaka ginawa natin, and that's it. We have 24 boys inside the class of 60 students, or with 60 students. So now, the reason why we have model here, what if we are asked to know the distributions of boys and girls to their groups? Halimbawa, ito, first group, second group, and third group. So, since tayo ay nasa fractions at proper po yung tama at proper po yung pagkakahati po niya, so as what we had here, ito, madali niyo po patandaan ito, these two fraction is similar fraction po yan. So, what if we are asked, ilan po yung mga estudyante sa bawat box na po yan, o sa bawat group na yan? So, ito lang po ang gagawin dyan. Since 36 girls po yan, if we're going to know the number of girls here, we're going to divide 36 by 3, and that is 12. 12 per group. Ayan po siya. So, 12 po yan. So, 12 plus 12 plus 12 is 36 girls. Ngayon naman, sa boys naman, paano naman po? So, ganun lang din. 24 divided by 2. Dahil 2 boxes po yan. So, our groups, we have 12 and 12. Because 12 plus 12 is 24. And if you're going to counter check it, 12 plus 12 plus 12 plus 12 plus 12, or 5 times 12 is equal to 60. As what we had here, ito yung natalakay po dito. 60 students po sila, di po ba? Ayan po. At kitang-kita po siya. Napatunayan po na, okay, this is actually 60 students talaga. So, it is good to have a model to process the word problem related to fractions, for us to show the proper ways on how to solve this kind of word problem. Ayan po, na related po sa fractions. So, ayun, bonus lamang po itong mga part na ito, but this is the actual process on how to solve the fractions, or the word problem relative to fractions and under real number. So let's now have our third example. So Angie cleans 1/3 of the yard. Alex cleans 1/4 of the remaining. And we're asked what fractions of the yard is left unclean. So here, ang tanong is how to process the word problem here na nalinis ni Angie at ni Alex. So let's focus with Angie muna po. So Angie cleans 1/3 po. So as what we had in our previous discussions, tingnan nyo muna po yung denominator na first fractions na nabanggit, which is Angie. Ayan po. Na nagawa ni Angie. So, nalinis po. That is 1/3. So, denominator is 3. So, gumawa po tayo dito ng tatlong representations ng box. Okay, representations ng nalinis ni Angie at yung hindi niya nalinis sa yard. Okay, so since the denominator is 3, we need to say there were 3 groups. So, representing 1/3 yung nalinis ni Angie at yung mga natira na 1/3 and 1/3 ay yung hindi nalinis ni Angie. So, we're going to sum up these 3 1/3s that is equal to 1 whole yard. So, ito po siya. 3 times 1/3 is equal to 3/3 or is equal to 1. Ayan. So, yan po siya. So, meaning to say, ito lamang yung part na nalinis ni Angie, yung 1/3 na yan. At itong dalawang ito ay ang hindi nalinis ni Angie. Yan po. At sinabi rito, Alex claims 1/4 of the remaining. So, ito yung natira. Itong 1/3 and 1/3 na ito. So, kung isasum up natin itong uncleaned area ni Angie o yung natira ni Angie. Okay, so 1/3 plus 1/3 is equal to 2/3. So 2/3 is the Angie clean and left uncleaned area. So yan yung hindi niya na po nalinisan. So ngayon, nabanggit na Alex cleans 1/4 of the remaining. So ang gagawin lang natin dyan, process naman po tayo ng multiplication. So 1/4 lamang ang nalinisan ni Alex doon sa natira. Ang natira po ay ito yung 2/3 na nabanggit dito, Angie left uncleaned area. That is 2/3. So now, we're going to multiply 1/4 to 2/3. So ayan po. So now, 1 times 2 is 2 and 4 times 3 is 12. And if we're going to simplify 2 over 12 or 2/12 is equal to 1/6 or 1 over 6. Ayan po yung nalinis ni Alex doon sa part ng naiwan ni Angie. So ngayon, paano natin malalaman yung fractions ng yard na hindi nalinis ng dalawa? Okay po? So, nung pinagsama ng dalawa, ni Angie at ni Alex. So, let's proceed po. So, ito po siya. So, we recopy the model as what we had in our previous slide. So, ito ang nakita ninyo. Itong 1 over 6, ito po yung nalinis ni Alex. Okay? Doon sa natirang 2/3 part ng nilinis ni Angie. Okay? So, ito yung natira. Doon sa nilinis ni Angie, yung 2/3. So, that's why when we solve for Alex cleaned area, ito yung 1 over 6. Ngayon naman, ang huli po natin gagawin, o yung second to the last na gagawin po natin is, we're going to combine Angie cleaned area and Angie cleaned area po. So, ang gagawin ay ito. Nabanggit po ng una, yung 1/3 ay yung nalinis ni Angie doon sa yard. 1/3 of the yard. 1/3 plus 1 over 6. 1 over 6 yung mismong nalinis ni Alex dun sa hindi nalinis ni Angie, which is 2/3. Ayan po, nakalagay 1 over 6. So, eto, dahil sila ay dissimilar fractions, ang gagawin po nyo po dyan is to know the LCD, okay, of these two fractions. Okay, so the LCD of these two fractions is 6, so that is why when you process it, it is equal to 2 plus 1 over 6, which is equal to 3 over 6. And when you simplify this 3 over 6, that is equal to 1/2. Okay, sa pagpo-process at pag-simplify po ng fractions, it is equal to 1/2. Okay, dito po maliwanag na ang nalinis ni Angie at ni Alex ay 1/2 or kalahati ng yard. Opo, kalahati po ng yard. So, para malaman po natin at mapatunayan, ito po ang isa sa pinakalas sa process. Okay, tulad po na nabanggit na ang bawat fraction ay bahagi lamang ng isang kabuuan. So, kung 1/2 yan, at may isa tayong buo ng yard, we're going to have 1 minus 1 half itong nalinis ng dalawa ni Angie at ni Alex. We're going to subtract it. The difference or the answer is equal to 1 half. At itong 1 half na pong ito ay yung sagot doon sa ating word problem. This is the remaining unclean area na hindi nalinis o natira mismo nila Angie at ni Alex. So with that, thank you mga kamag-aral. Thanks for tuning in and listening in our discussions. Please do like and share and subscribe our YouTube channel. Mag-aral tayo ng mabuti. God bless everyone!